alternate version of Earth, New York has been replaced by a city known as New Rome. This city is governed by elite families who profess to adhere to strict moral codes and values, yet in private, they indulge in pleasures they publicly forbid. Meanwhile, the rest of the town's inhabitants live in poverty and hardship. Atop a towering building, the architect named Cesar is about to jump. But then, all of a sudden, he halts time and calmly resumes his steps. After seeing the ground and the scary height, he rewinds time and the town continues. Meanwhile, Cicero's mayor is upset as the radio mentions his financial issues and his daughter Julia posed nude. After a night out, Julia tries to return home, but the road is blocked as Cesar's team demolishes a building. When the explosives vanish, Cesar pauses to admire the blast. But Julia remains unfazed by his power and witnesses the demolition before time runs out. Later, Cesar wins a Nobel Prize for creating Megalon, a groundbreaking construction material. His fame soared daily, irritating Cicero, whose poll numbers were dropping and who viewed Cesar as a rival. One night, key figures gather for an event at the demolition site. The event is covered by Wow, an ambitious journalist. Cesar's cousin Claudio acts foolishly, embarrassing his uncle Hamilton's family, who leads the National Bank. Hamilton is also concerned about rumors of Claudio and his sister's close relationship. Cicero announces their plan to construct a highly advanced casino, but the significant moment is ruined by Claudio's antics once again. The announcement faces interruption with Caesar's arrival, who reminds everyone that he holds the position of president of the design authority. Caesar expresses his desire to demolish and reconstruct the entire city into a sustainable utopia, utilizing Megalon. However, Cicero interrupts him, advocating for realistic goals instead of mere dreams. An argument erupts, with Caesar criticizing the system for favoring the rich. Cicero counters, saying Megalon is unstable. As Caesar persists, Cicero mentions Caesar's wife, poisoned and missing. Cicero, once prosecutor, believed Caesar guilty, but Caesar was acquitted and now calls Cicero a slumlord. Cicero worries, and security prevents him from leaving, while Julia stops the press from taking unplanned photos of her father. Later, at a fashion show, Claudio gets upset as the women discuss Cesar. At home, Cesar finds Wow, who is tired of being a mistress and wants their relationship official as her career struggles. Wow says she loves him, but Cesar thinks of his dead wife and leaves. Wow watches his interview with Hamilton, noting he flirted with her. The next day, Julia visits Cesar at his office after sending a letter about her father. She sees many empty bottles and medicine, showing Cesar's mental state. Cesar isn't fond of Julia because she's often disappointed, stubborn, and lacks any goals in her life. He mentions that he prefers the company of individuals who genuinely think. This annoys Julia, who then reveals that she has witnessed him stopping time and remained unaffected by it. At this point, Cesar begins to find her intriguing and presents her with a model of his utopia, inviting her to explore it with her eyes shut. Julia envisions people living a flawless life, in harmony, with equal opportunities for everyone, and she finally comprehends. Caesar's vision is clear, and she feels compelled to assist him. Later, during a parade, Julia informs Cicero of her decision to collaborate with Caesar, and Cicero accuses her of being a traitor. His frustration grows when the police halt the parade, merely to allow Cesar to drive across the street in his car. That evening, Julia meticulously goes through all the files and articles related to the murder case of Cesar and his wife. It was discovered that she was poisoned with a lethal overdose of insulin, and their car had been discovered submerged deep in the river. In the midst of the investigation, his body mysteriously vanishes. Julia, overwhelmed with desperation to uncover the truth of what occurred, begins to shadow Cesar throughout the city. Claudio is present as well and observes Julia's actions, prompting him to start taking photographs as he trails behind them too. After a considerable amount of driving, Caesar's vehicle eventually leads him to a dimly lit neighborhood, where he witnesses injustice manifesting everywhere through images of toppled statues. Then he stops buying flowers, confusing Julia. 2 minutes later, Cesar enters a mysterious building, where a guard turns off the alarm lasers for him. Cesar takes flowers to his wife, cared for by kind women. But when Julia follows, she finds Cesar alone. It's all her imagination. Amazed by Cesar's love, Julia decides to leave. The following day, Cicero ascends the tour to observe the city and jot down his plans. Julia comes to him and inquires which institution is crucial to maintain in his utopia, and Cesar responds, friendship. Over the subsequent weeks, Wow spends considerable time with Hamilton, and they make a promise. On their wedding night, Wow presents Hamilton with his own statue. Julia waits with Cesar, who observes the Protestants nearby holding signs against him, but he pays no attention to them. The reporters inquire about Megalon and the potential danger it poses, but Cesar merely laughs, reassuring them that it is completely safe. Indeed, pop star Vesta makes an entrance wearing an outfit created by Caesar using Megalon, which employs tiny cameras to render him invisible. Everyone adores Vesta, as she promises to remain on the hunt until the wedding. When Cicero shows up, he finds everyone distasteful. Since this is the new Rome, they have a celebration inspired by the ancient Roman Empire, with a chariot race and gladiator fights. Julia is interviewed by students and hears rumors of her date with Caesar. Speaking of Caesar, he spends the night smoking, drinking, and using substances, making it all a psychedelic joke. He signs autographs and lets women flirt, but can't believe it. Julia tries to capture him, but fails. As clowns finish, Claudio bribes a producer to play his video at the right time. Then Vesta sings, while people donate to support her claim to chastity. Her performance is cut short by Claudio's video on the screens, showing Caesar and Vesta mocked and caught by paparazzi. A fog erupts and bodyguards whisk Vesta away as the crowd riots, sparking a stadium battle. Cicero's speech is ignored, as guards use violence to quell the chaos. Finally, the anti-Cicero signs lead him back to the stadium. Meanwhile, Caesar attempts to flee through the back door, but is struck by a man who confronts him as he hallucinates. Due to the substances Caesar consumed, the man easily kills him. Julia finds him and drives away, but the police stop them. As Vesta is a minor, Caesar is arrested and held. In his room, Caesar attempts to stop time but fails. That evening, Julia and a friend visit the archives, finding a recording proving Vesta lied about other things. She's not a minor and wasn't born in New Rome. Next day, Julia shows her father Vesta's birth certificate to save Caesar, yet Cicero denounces him, stating Caesar is legally innocent but not morally. Julia, frustrated, leaves to buy another copy. Later, Julia visits Hamilton's house and Wow stops the lift to warn her. She tells Julia that Hamilton is hers, just like Caesar. Claudio also visits Hamilton, aiming to be the bank's heir, but Hamilton suspects Claudio of the prank video. Soon, the media begin covering the outcome of Vesta's real age. They also present forensic evidence proving the video was not genuine and that it was all staged. After Caesar is released from prison, Julia visits him on his rooftop. He is feeling despondent because he has lost his power and finally admits that all his mental issues stem from his grief. Although Caesar didn't kill his wife, he still feels a sense of responsibility for not taking proper care of himself. Julia accompanies him, and as they share a kiss, Cicero finally manages to halt time. Their kiss signifies the start of a fresh relationship. As weeks pass, Caesar immerses himself in his project while also spending time with Julia. Eventually, he attempts to introduce her to his mother, but the elderly lady, being senile, fails to comprehend the situation. When the couple find themselves alone in bed, they enjoy playing with the effects of the cold weather. Meanwhile, the lower class despises Caesar more for demolishing buildings for his dream city. Regrettably, Claudio, his cousin, joins the protest to fuel the fire. News of Claudio's actions reaches Cicero, who seeks his help. One night, Cicero hears dreadful news. A Soviet satellite crashes and soon links to New Rome. Unfortunately, they lack any way to stop him, and the locals can do nothing but watch in horror as the satellite comes crashing down upon their town, destroying the majority of it. This dreadful incident provides Caesar with the opportunity to focus on rebuilding the town without any hindrances. He immerses himself in his work, manipulating time as he attempts to envisage the future and construct the ideal utopia. After numerous days of relentless work, Caesar is eventually brought out of his trance by Julia, who joyfully announces that she is expecting a baby. Caesar is thrilled and eager to marry her, but Julia dismisses the idea, explaining that Caesar's conscience would never forgive him, as he still feels bound in marriage to his deceased wife. The couple invite Julia's parents to visit their new home, which has been constructed according to Caesar's advanced and innovative designs. Cicero and Caesar keep on arguing as they play cards, leading Julia to reprimand them like their children. She takes this opportunity to reveal her childhood, leaving her mother in shock. However, Cicero, filled with anger, departs without uttering a word. Julia is heartbroken, believing her father despises her. Meanwhile, Claudio remains the leader of the impoverished, stirring up even more protests and riots against Caesar and his utopia. The man sent to stop Claudio died in the crash, so no one stops him now. Days later, Cicero visits Caesar, asking him to stay away from Julia. He offers a confession, admitting he knew Caesar's wife had self-eliminated, but still persecuted Caesar to kidnap her. Cicero promises to support Caesar publicly, but Caesar refuses. Later, Caesar reunites with Wow, who proposes to rob Hamilton's bank and hand it over to Caesar so they can be together. Yet Caesar declines this offer as well. Meanwhile, an enraged WW opts to freeze all of Caesar's accounts. On the news, reporters keep questioning Melodon's safety and tarnishing Caesar's reputation. One evening, a boy approaches Caesar for an autograph, but it's a ruse to get close and shoot in his mind. For hours, Caesar is trapped in a vivid hallucination. Julia rushes him to hospital. Doctors consider reconstructing his shell with Megalon. Meanwhile, it's revealed the child was sent by Claudio's men. Claudio is furious as it makes Caesar appear guilty. The procedure with Megalon is proceeding well, but recovery will take time. Recovers fully. Julia comforts him post-operation. During his painful hallucinations, Caesar reveals the night his wife died. She returned home with great news, but saw something that made her jealous, leading her to harm herself in the river. Cicero lied about the poison and hid her pregnancy. Caesar attempted to follow his wife and witnessed her leap, then found the principal behind Megalon, attempting to rescue her. Once he can walk again, Caesar visits Wow to inquire about his bank accounts. Wow attempts to intimidate him, but Caesar removes his bandages, revealing the Megalon now residing behind his left eye. A shocked Wow collapses into his lap, pleading to have him back, as diamonds mean nothing without his love. The moment gets interrupted by Hamilton, who is taken aback to hear him discussing the cold accounts. He promises to sort it out, confidently assuring him that it was merely an error on the paper. A while later, Wow and Claudio meet in private to mess things up. Suddenly, the lights become painful, and Claudio explains that it's due to Caesar's systems consuming all his energy. Then, Wow discloses that Hamilton has requested a prenuptial agreement, and she's unable to secure the bank. She wants to work with Claudio to catch something. She even cuts his hair to make him presentable. Next time Claudio meets Hamilton, he's proud his son-in-law looks mature. Claudio asks to be interim bank manager to aid the family business. Hamilton gladly signs the papers, only to find the contract stops Claudio from working. Claudio, a real director and leader. Tired of betrayal, Hamilton worries and has a heart attack. Months later, after the child's birth, Caesar and Julia marry privately during Saturnalia, this city's Christmas. Claudio and Wow keep working together, convincing the board to remove Hamilton from the bank. Later, Claudio rallies rebels for a huge riot, leading to gunfire on the streets. The police can't control it. Cicero publicly condemns the citizens, then flees via subway with his wife Julia and the child. While holding his granddaughter, Cicero still insults Caesar, but desires a good future for the child, supporting his son-in-law. Later tonight, Claudio and Wow find Hamilton seated with a bulge in his trousers. He jokes it's for Wow, but reveals a knife and a tree. He shoots Wow in the heart and Claudio in the rear as he flees. Hamilton then declares he's donating his fortune to Caesar's city project. Simultaneously, Caesar makes a public appearance, sharing his vision of a future where his utopia, Megalopolis, has no social classes. Even those from the hottest city areas will have opportunities to work and advance, as every human is a miracle. The audience is moved by his words, realizing Claudio manipulated them. They soon find Claudio and hang him in retaliation. By Christmas, the Megalopolis project is complete. Caesar, Julia, and the baby join Cicero and his wife for the parade. Welcoming the fans, Caesar is shocked to see his mother in the audience. When the Christmas countdown reaches 0, Caesar and Julia kiss to stop time, but their daughter is unaffected. In this alternate version of Earth,